Good morning and welcome to Morning Vibe. Thank you so much for joining us this Tuesday morning. And today we are highlighting aspects of wellness and health. We are speaking about the creative mind and addiction. Of course, this is not a new topic here. We were speaking to, an artist that you know only too well last week. He's called Peter from the formerly, very popular Boomba clan, if you can remember. And today we're having with us Boniface Ndirangu. He's the director of Eden House Foundation. Thank you so much for coming in, Boniface.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Welcome, back. Welcome back to the set.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Now, I'd just like to engage our audience on the same. We're asking you today, how do you think addiction affects a creative individual's or artist's ability to produce high quality work? How do you think addiction affects a creative individual's or artist's ability to produce high quality work? Would love to know your thoughts on the same. And remember, you can, of course, send us your feedback on Facebook and X. They share the same handle. I mean, for those social media, pages for that matter, that is at K24 TV. And our WhatsApp line is right there on your screen. Would love to know what you think. Right, so Boniface, thank you so much for being here. I mean, there's so much to look into when it comes to this particular mind of an artist or a creative for that matter. These are people who we revere. These are people who have, if they're musicians, their songs have become the soundtracks to our lives. We'll have nostalgia when we remember a song or a movie or a poem, something that just, resonates with us. So what is it that is so, in connection when it comes to this creative mind that is in a way so genius and the propensity of addiction?
Oh, nice. Thanks for that. Let's define fast addiction so that we are able to see the connection. One, mostly described as an obsession of the mind, and a compulsion to do. Compulsion, almost impossible not to, once it sets up in the mind. Now, creatives, quite a bit in the mind, yeah? So the propensity to, or the predisposition is almost set out from the word go because of the nature of their work, because they use a lot of their mind to create and obsess about their music. And so over time, as they create that, it develops some stressors, some level of stressors. And alcohol and addiction becomes almost like a coping skill or a coping tool for substance abuse. By the way, I stumbled into this, Remy. It's not like I had ever thought that there was a correlation. I personally am a former soccer player. I was playing for the national team when I started drinking a lot. In fact, the last time I was in a soccer pitch playing for the national team, I was expelled for drinking and going. Yes,
totally from the team.
Yeah, from the team. And sports and creativity. A lot of people who are serious sports people are also very correlated. It's sports and athletes are very predisposed also to addiction. There's a lot of creativity involved in sports. So I had never seen that correlation before until I saw this with my creative, because as you say, some of the people who have come to our rehab, I have listened to their music. I have loved to hear them sing and the creativity in which it comes with, and some of the stars we know internationally too. Yeah. So I started to see a pattern of serious musicians who are coming into our center, and the demand was beginning to look like quite a bit of a team that I needed to look at a little more deeply.
I see. Now, let's take a look at the artists that you deal with. There are people who are still, producing music. There are people who are struggling to either come out. There are people on their journey of healing. We have different angles in the way this look. But one of the things I noticed is you can find someone who has been in a journey of sobriety, an artist for that matter, for maybe 10 years. Then you have another artist who is on and off. And now you have the artist who seems okay. They have an addiction problem, but they're okay. Now they're encouraging others. But unfortunately, because of the way their mind is set up, you find that now they cannot, because they feel like they cannot help themselves or they cannot be helped, they end up committing suicide. So those are those different categories. Especially the last one. Please explain to us exactly what happens to them mentally.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is really sad when you think about it. But the last stages of addiction is a combination of the compulsion to use, the inability to sing like we did, the losses that we have incurred over time, some of the artists, the lost opportunities. Right. Sometimes all this compound to a place where it is almost the lack to live, and it has been scientifically proven and written even in medical journals that creatives and artists and musicians are more predisposed than the average population or other average professions towards addiction, mainly because of environmental factors, the culture that has been already set up in studios, in acceptability or normalization of the drink among artists or the environment in which they work, has kind of allowed artists and musicians to engage with the substance and substance abuse without any interventions in that field. So by the time people are getting into a level where there is a serious correlation between depression, bipolar, anxiety issues, and creatives, yeah,
I see.
that has already and depression, you know how it works. Depression, once it creeps in, some artists, because of their losses and because of a lack of their, they're no longer in tune with how they used to be, sometimes feel as though they have lost everything they needed to live for. And that becomes now where we really lose some of them. We need to develop interventions all along the stages, as you said earlier, for the new ones coming in, for the ones that are quite a bit stable. A few musicians who I have really wondered how they have really managed that space. Yes, very interesting to see. And these are people we should look at and develop programs around to help other artists, cope.
I see. What's quite interesting is that, like you said, it's very trivialized, their experiences. It's like almost we may not imagine that these people have backbones, quote unquote, or characters to make them avoid the drugs and the alcohol and all that is within an industry that is already has those particular, aspects of vices. So what happens is, oh, that person is, so and so, and look at them drinking. Look at them how they're throwing their life away. And if you speak to some of them, they don't have that intention. It's just that they get into it, and somehow they are captured with what's already inside an industry that is way older, than them. So
yes.
What is it with the glamour and the exposure that one has to be, quote unquote, connected to substance abuse of any kind?
Yes, very interesting. That's because, as I said earlier, the nature of the problem and the definition of addiction and their field of work are almost intertwined somehow. There is a lot of creativity that goes in the mind, and usually it takes quite a bit to get to the level where we are. You know, have a very serious respect for musicians and artists or creatives, because the things they do, if I tried to do, I cannot end up even creating a, you know, I've tried to create even one beat that is new myself. I can't. You should try it one day, really.
Yes.
Try and just sing one line by yourself. You'll find singing somebody else's line. So these people are very creative. Their minds work in a very interesting way. Yeah? I've seen them compose music together sometimes in our C12 program, and it's just amazing to see how. So they are the nature of their work. On top of that, the environmental factors and the culture set in studios. Let me
When you say cultures in studio, what do you mean?
So, how I actually even started thinking about doing something about a clean studio. Is we would have a client who is a musician. I can't say their name because of anonymity factors, and we can't. So we would the first few times I would ensure that they have this song that they need to play. They are in our rehab, and we allow them to go to the studio. So our driver would come back and tell me, Boniface, I can swear to you this person has not left anywhere else other than that studio. But when he's come back, we can notice that he is high. Yeah? So we do drug tests and find through the positive marijuana and other stuff. So that was one. A few times more, and then a few more artists similarly. I started suspecting that the studios have something to do with it. A lot of our studios are not very clean environments. I'm not sure about many, studios, but the ones I have an experience with, they're not clean in the sense that somehow it's being culturalized within the studio for creativity. There's an association with substances, or an allowance for people who use their substance. And a lot of these people over time have created music in that state, or created stuff in that state of slight highness or a little intoxicated, and the inhibitions are gone, and they open up and create stuff. So over time, the mind of the musician, some of these musicians, start to correlate between the state of mind of using that space, and the creativity.
I see. So it becomes a staple. It's something very normal
so
for them
that
to do.
We have had artists who even have a creative lock, mainly because they're sober and they're finding it difficult because they have in their mind, they've already associated creativity and the use, which was there when they started. So it becomes very difficult for that artist to break that lock, to break that loop, and helping them to get over that, it becomes some of the hardest spaces. That's why we see a lot of relapses among them, because the creativity and the environmental factors in the past created a correlation in their minds about the ability to create and perform with substance use. So a little drink, a little pot, a little coke. Those drugs affect our minds. The dopamine levels shoot up, serotonin levels are equaled. Those are the chemical brain chemistry that has been put in a space to perform. And for artists who are able to break this, you look at some of them, like Eminem, and have even relapsed, mainly because now he's clean for more than 10 years, but there was a time he had a small relapse, mainly because he could not break through that loop.
I see. Now, we need to understand what is it that the people who supply these artists or creatives with substances believe that will enhance their creativity. You know, first of all, when you are talented, your gift to some extent, you're seen like a small god, you know, that you can do things which are almost quote unquote unnatural as compared to the normal, you know, human being. But you're always the people who, you can either get people who will lead you in the right direction or people who will not. So when they're supplying this particular individual with substances, the thing is to even make them more genius than what they already are. And then you find that, you know, we've had even rappers say, I was doing this and then I got to write my best hit. And if you go back to listen to that song, you're like, wow, like I like that song, but you realize, oh, it was written when he was under the influence of one of these things that we are speaking about right now. So why is it that, you know, they're made to believe that, and those ones who supply them with that need them to be in that particular way? Is it control? Is it a way of getting the best out of them and then discarding them? How can you basically understand this?
Yeah. And by the way, it's an illusion, huh? It's an illusion. It's not necessarily.
Yeah.
Their creativity is innate. Because
It's inborn.
otherwise, yes, otherwise, most of us would just drink and become musicians, you know.
I mean, yes,
all of us,
yeah,
yes, we would
yeah.
just use what they're using.
It's
If it was
truth,
true,
yeah. Yeah.
If it was true, then I would probably be singing. I love music, so I would probably, during my using days, and I'm a former drug addict. Did I mention that? I'm
yes,
a former drug addict, so probably I would have been just as good as all the other musicians because I used all that stuff. But no, it's innate. The talent is innate. It is the association and the work environment. And the people who benefit are the ones who sell that stuff. So they're very subtle. They're very clever. Most of the peddlers of the powerful industries. The alcohol industry is a very powerful industry.
It is?
You'll find a lot of the spaces where music is being, the promoters are usually the industry. It's a very powerful industry. It has a lot of resources and it knows where to market their products. They know which young upcoming musicians are cropping up and introducing and sponsoring those events has an associative replication of the use of their substance. So if it is alcohol, Tusker promotes a lot of musicians. Yeah, I have nothing against the promotion of musicians by this substance, but there is an associative. So you will see people who supply drugs, people who supply these substances are very keen on stars. Yeah? I had an alcohol drug problem, and if you look at who are my key people who I supported, they are all abusers of substances. So these people are very influential. Yeah?
Okay.
Maradona.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Oh,
and I used to play football for the national team myself.
Yes.
During my time, Maradona was one of the
Biggest,
biggest star. There was another guy called Paul Gascoigne. In fact, my nickname among people who I went to school with is Gaza. So I was called after him. Right. And I've picked up after him. We are both alcoholics. We drank so much. Yeah. Gaza still has problems to this day. Paul Gascoigne.
Yes, he does.
He's a very serious soccer player.
Yeah.
Almost all my idols, you know, Amy Winehouse, Tupac. So there is a serious correlation between these musicians, well, these influencers, and the new generation, and that's where the market is for the people who peddle drugs and alcohol, and some of these are legal. cannot be shoved down because they are legal entities. Alcoholic, they support the musicians for that. They support the fine artists for that. They support things where they are influencers. And it just takes that most young people are very influenceable. Remy, this is what I think.
Right.
We should have an equally powerful, resourced organizations that promote the opposite of that.
Do we have any so far? I mean, you have C12, and you're offering the rehabilitation services, so definitely we are seeing a change in artists.
Yes.
But do we have now one or others that counter what we know?
Yes. In fact, on the 15th, we are having a show at a creative show, a clean creative show at a place somewhere in Kiambu. It's called Eugenia Park. And those are the efforts we are trying to make. We're trying to show some of these artists that actually we can perform clean and sober. And some of them are very well-known artists. They have broken the ice in terms of being able to perform again, just like they did when they were high, but they are sober this time. So on the 15th at Eugenia Park, that's what we'll be doing. Unfortunately, we don't have sufficient. This other arm we are talking about is no capital sufficient to influence, not sufficient people with resources to put in that.
Oh,
and
see.
if it were, it would be a very nice competition, because we can't shut down the alcoholic industry, because alcohol for majority of the people is illegal, and it should continue with their work. They employ a lot of people, they pay a lot of taxes. There are other substances which are also legal, which are pharmaceuticals. They are there to treat diseases, but they are also very addictive. However, what is the capital to create competitive, to compete with these two industries, but with a fund so the music industry, the society should come up with something, a certain amount of money that they put towards this to support artists who have developed problems, to support creatives who along the way have lost it in the substance. We should have promoting music and musicians who are very clean and sober. Sauti Sol sometimes, and some of the artists I've seen, I'm very impressed by some of them, to be honest, how they have been able to keep a really good balance between their stardom, their music, and avoid
the extreme part of this thing.
Yes, and those people should be really highlighted and promoted and funded to be the face of the industry, rather than the other way around. Because the other way around is very expensive. It's very expensive. It's really costs a lot more, because the people they go down with are so many more, like me, like myself. I'm clean for 21 years now, but I'm just lucky to have got recovery. I would have easily just passed on like many other artists. The loss is just extreme. If you really calculate the loss, of some of these musicians, like Amy Winehouse, it's so serious. Like our lady Whitney.
Yeah, I mean, they're very tragic, especially when it's generations.
Yes.
Mother, daughter.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps on giving the same effect to the next.
Yes.
So there's so much to still speak about.
Yes.
We need to take a short break, Bonnie, first, but we'll be back with more of this conversation. Stay with us. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's